So the day has finally come. Bloodstained Curse of the Moon is available on the eShop for Nintendo, on the PlayStation Store, and other platforms. I was a Kickstarter backer on it, and everyone's telling me how amazing this game is. And guess what? I can't play it. While Inti Creates is trying to figure out how to get download codes to us all, they have given us all temporary Steam codes. I guess I could play it on Steam, but you know what? I kind of don't want to. You don't want to be on me, do you? I feel like if I'm... Alright, please. If I'm gonna play this game, I prefer to play it on a console, and when I ordered Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, I originally chose the PlayStation 4 platform for it. And since then, the Nintendo Switch has come out, and it's really proven to be such a wonderful platform. I absolutely adore the Nintendo Switch. So I decided to change my platform of choice to the Nintendo Switch. Makes logical sense. And so I did. He gave me a choice to choose both Bloodstained Curse of the Moon and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night for the Nintendo Switch, and I decided to go in that direction. And man, I was so excited to play it. I can't wait to get that digital code. It's coming out May 24th. Yes! So everyone's enjoying it now, and I'm still waiting for my code. I understand this is part of Kickstarter's problems. This can happen. This is the second time it's happened to me. First time was the Ouya. It took me over a week to get that darn machine, if I remember correctly, and I was miffed about that as well. But you know what? This is just a game, and to the credit of Inti Creates and Koji Igarashi, they did at least give a Steam code out, so I could use it. Maybe I will, just for comparison purposes, I suppose. But I'm still a little upset. Anyway, I don't think it makes sense for me to buy 2 copies for the Nintendo Switch, because I decided rather than use a Steam code, I'm just going to purchase the digital copy of Curse of the Moon on the console I originally chose. It is $10. It's not the point, but it's okay. So I purchased Curse of the Moon on the PlayStation 4 instead. So, regardless, you know, as upset as I am, I understand this is how it works. There are no guarantees in life always, so, you know, kind of keep that as a lesson, a life lesson. So let's check out Bloodstained Curse of the Moon for the PlayStation 4. There are games that we play because we simply own them. There are games that we play because they are lots of fun. And then there are games we play because we love them. The kind of game you keep coming back to regardless of how many times you played it. For me, that game is Castlevania. I fell in love with the game from the very first moment I laid my eyes on it. My original experience with it was on an arcade cabinet inside of a local pizzeria in Brooklyn. It was one of the several Versus series of arcade games released by Nintendo, not to be confused by the PlayChoice 10 arcade cabinets. The Versus series had only one game in them. From the first time I put a quarter in the cabinet till the last, I couldn't wait to come back and play it again. At the time, I had no idea that what I was actually playing was a game that would eventually make its way to the NES. A 100% perfect copy of the arcade game that I fell in love with, which I can own and play on a console that my parents would eventually buy me for my birthday in just a few months. Back then, we never got arcade perfect ports to a home console. The Versus arcade cabinets were a brilliant move on Nintendo's part to get the NES console into the homes of gamers. And when I got the NES, instead of it coming with a packaged game, it instead came with the official Nintendo Player's Guide. Something that at the time I felt disappointed with, but today I appreciate it more than I could have ever back then. It's from this very book that I would learn that the Castlevania arcade game was now a game I can own. Oddly enough, other Nintendo games such as Gradius, Legendary Wings, Rygar, and more kept me plenty busy. It wouldn't be until around 1995 or 1996 when I would finally own a copy of Castlevania. And even though the game spawned 2 sequels on the NES, which I very much enjoyed, it was still the first game that I fell in love with. Fast forward 31 years later, and I never imagined a game could bring me back to the feelings I felt when I first walked into that pizzeria back in 1987. Surprise announcement made just 2 weeks prior to its release, my anticipation and excitement for this game could not be higher. Although I was worried that this game might not live up to my expectations, I still remained cautiously optimistic. Needless to say, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon not only delivers on its promise of being the spiritual successor to the classic 2D Castlevania series, but it actually surpassed my every expectation and even answered a question for me that I never knew I had. How can you improve on perfection? Certainly the Castlevania games on the PC Engine, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, PlayStation 1, Game Boy Advance, and Nintendo DS were the answer to that question. Or so I thought. The many improvements made to the gameplay mechanics in subsequent games after the NES trilogy were truly game-changing. A lot of great ideas were implemented, especially those thought in on how you control Simon Belmont in Super Castlevania 4, one of my favorite linear Castlevania games in the series. However, you will never forget your first love. Bloodstained for me is like the girl that got away. You always remember the good times you had with her and easily overlook the flaws in your relationship because what really mattered in the end was just how happy she really made you feel. With Bloodstained, I feel like the girl I let get away has been keeping herself busy at the gym, found new ways to improve her physique, built and improved on everything that made her attractive to begin with, and now, out of nowhere, for some crazy reason, is giving me a second chance, and boy, I didn't realize just how much I've missed her. Maybe a return to basics is exactly what the Castlevania series has been missing the entire time. The attention to detail in Bloodstained is truly outstanding. The game starts with NES-inspired chiptune music. I stayed on this menu for over 2 minutes just to take in the entire track before it looped, after which I pressed start, or options in the case of the console I'm playing it on. I was greeted to a familiar opening which boosted my confidence that I was about to enjoy a truly special game. The premise of the story is that you play as Zangetsu, a man who had been cursed by demons, who pursues his revenge on them until he has killed every last one of them. Not even a minute into the game, and I already found myself grinning from cheek to cheek. Bloodstained Curse of the Moon is a true return to traditional Castlevania, and the game's first level music reassures me that this is exactly the game I have long been waiting for. I feel I do need to emphasize just how great the music track is. Here is Castlevania's first level replaced with the music from Bloodstained. Each of the game's levels have many different branching paths to make your way to the end level boss. You won't be able to access all paths right away, thus ensuring replayability. And Bloodstained has very high replay value. You can unlock all 3 allies after the first 3 boss fights, and each ally has different abilities and attributes that will make you switch between all of them during gameplay. Zangetsu, the character you start with, wields a powerful sword. Miriam, the main protagonist of Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, wields the traditional long whip made famous in the Castlevania series. Her jumps are the highest of all playable characters, She also has the ability to slide and reach areas most of the other characters can't. Then we have Alfred, a powerful alchemist whose sub-weapons are the most powerful of everyone's. However, he moves the slowest and his main attack is the weakest from the group. And then we finally have G-Bell. He's pretty much Alucard from Castlevania. He too can reach tight places just like Miriam. He also has the ability to transform into a bat, fly anywhere on screen, and he's also very powerful. I can't decide who I like better between Miriam and G-Bell, but all the characters are great and make for an interesting way to change combat on the fly. Also back are the enemies we remember from Castlevania, except that they may not be the same enemies for obvious reasons. Love them or hate them, some of those that make the return are the dreaded small Medusa, the skeleton, the ghost, and the annoying hunchbacks. The game also brings its own original enemies as well. The attention to detail I mentioned earlier can be seen in many facets throughout the game. One of the big standouts that I took notice of immediately is when your protagonist takes a hit. You hear a very digitized grunting sound, just like in Castlevania. What's nice is that each character makes their own individual grunt sound. It's simple inclusions like this that really go a long way for me, and I appreciate these types of efforts when developing a game that is part of a long-running series. Each character also has a couple of sub-weapons that cannot be shared amongst themselves, meaning that if you like a specific sub-weapon, you have to select the character that uses that weapon. You'll have a lot of fun switching between who you play as to get past certain scenarios. The music in this game is brilliant, and while some tracks are better than others, there is no bad music in the game at all. I found myself listening to the game's soundtrack through other YouTube videos. The chiptunes here are truly memorable. There is something worth mentioning in the music track of Stage 7, Defiler of Taboos. While I was playing the game, my brother took notice very quickly that there are similarities between this track and the famous vampire killer chiptune track from Castlevania. And I agree. Do you hear the similarities? If you do, let me know in the comments below. If I have any criticism of Bloodstained, it may be that the bosses created for the game are random at best. Unlike Castlevania, which is loaded with classic horror icons such as Frankenstein, Medusa, the Mummy, and Dracula, the bosses here don't appear to be derived from anything. It doesn't detract from the fun of the game in any way. Koji Igarashi and Inti Creates not only nailed the formula that makes the NES classic Castlevania series among some of the greatest games ever made, but Bloodstained gives Castlevania and Konami a run for their money. Even if Konami wanted to make good with their former fanbase and decided to release a new Castlevania game on consoles where the series belongs, they would now find themselves up against a serious contender. One that has the potential to outpace any upcoming Castlevania games should we ever see any in the future. I always wish to see Castlevania return to former glory and continue the series into the future, but now that we have Bloodstained, I am no longer concerned about what Konami does with the series anymore. I just hope there are more Bloodstained games planned beyond Ritual of the Night. A game that promises to continue the Metroidvania style of Castlevania, and a game that I now feel confident will be as amazing as Castlevania Symphony of the Night. If there is anything that Konami can learn from Bloodstained, it should be that the gaming community still yearns for these games. The good thing for them is that even though Castlevania is among the best series that Konami ever made, they still have plenty of classic franchises they can bring back if only they wanted to. Classics that for whatever reason Konami won't bring back to the limelight. I don't know. I guess they must not like money. So my final thoughts on Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Buy it. Buy the game. It is absolutely incredible. I feel like Curse of the Moon is the 4th sequel in the NES Castlevania library. It's that good. It almost feels like it's the game we should have had before Super Castlevania 4. And that's not to say that Super Castlevania 4 is a bad game. It's an incredible game. All the Castlevania games are incredible for the most part. But this game was so well done. The attention to detail was so perfect, it blew my mind. And you see, I'm really happy now because this is me after I played the game. The opening of this video was me just being upset with the fact that I got this game where I had to repurchase it on a different platform because my Kickstarter code hasn't come in yet. Had I decided to just play the game first before talking about how upset I was about the Kickstarter, all of my anger and upsetness would have dissipated right away, and that's what I was worried about, because the game is that good. I don't mind that I rebought the game on a different format for the PlayStation 4. It was totally worth my money. I don't understand how this game is $10. I'm glad it is, but it is easily... This is the best $10 I've ever spent on a video game. I got the biggest return investment from buying this game because it was that good of an experience. The replayability on this game is fantastic. Guys, if you're on the fence of getting this game, buy it. Just buy it. Buy it for 2 different platforms if you want, just to have. It's a well done game. I can't wait to get my Switch version. And you know what? When I do, I'm probably going to get that, and I'm going to play the hell out of that all over again. The game is that good. So, at the end of the day, I'm glad that I invested in this game. And it was totally worth it. And I find it interesting that they call this a mini game. I guess for today's standards of video games, yes, it's mini, but the game has like 7 or 8 different levels to it, and it's very much the length of a traditional NES game. So for me, this is the right size game. I like games that are short like this because it wasn't as short as I was worried about. I thought the game was going to be a lot shorter than what it ended up being because everyone called it a mini game, but the truth is, this game is equally as long as any traditional NES game that you've ever played before. So, yeah, this is a really great game. Totally worth the $10 investment. I wish there was a physical copy of it, because if they ever officially release that, I'm buying that right off the bat. I will rebuy this game for a physical copy. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching ConsoleVision. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.